besties, hi all. Apologies for today's outfit, it's absolutely freezing in this house today and in the whole of Scotland in general, I think. And I'm also trying something new with lights, so if it looks a bit funny, sorry, I don't know what I'm doing. We'll see if it sticks, maybe no. I've mentioned in past videos that I have a quartet, basically, of statues that I absolutely adore. The Cramond Lioness, the Ballatulish figure, Phrasikleia, and the Nicandry Corey. If you're new here, hello, welcome in. Those are my 4 favourite statues of all of ancient history, right? My 4 girlies, I like to call them. And 3 out of 4 of these girlies all have their own videos so far. I'll pop a playlist in so you can go watch them if you like. But one of them doesn't. So today, we're going to take a look at the lovely, gorgeous, gorgeous Phrasikleia. And I would also like to state for the jury, for the court, and for anybody else who cares that I am now a master of classical art and archaeology, baby! I've got my masters! It's official, it's done! So take that, all you haters out there. Just kidding, you're all very nice for the most part. But that being said, I'm still learning and I will be learning for the rest of my life. So if you have any questions or concerns or criticisms and all that jazz, any sort of discussion points, whatever you want to say, pop it in the comments down below if it's relevant. If it's relevant, please. While you're in the comments as well, you might as well let me know what your favourite historical figures, artefacts, sites and that are. And give me ideas for future videos, because I'd love to hear what you guys enjoy about ancient history and archaeology and such. If you're lucky, I might just pick your topic and make a little video on it for you. Also as well, I don't think I mentioned this, the 4 girlies that are my favourites, my little quartet as I like to call them, they're not related in any way, shape or form. It's just me deciding that I really like these 4 girlies and that's that. But I wanted to get Phrasikleia done because I've recently done Nicandry and I felt awfully sad for her being the only one who's not got a video yet. So here we go. The quartet is now complete. For my little brain. That's the only place it matters, really. Phrasikleia is a 6-foot funerary sculpture dating to around 550 to 540 BCE. She's extremely well preserved for a reason which I'll get into a little bit later. And she's made from Parian marble, which is essentially the best of the best stuff that money could buy in terms of making your statues back in ancient Greece, right? She's what's known as a funerary Corey, which is a female grave marker, which would be sculpted, most likely, to represent the person over whose grave she stands. So she serves the same function as the Nicandry Corey, really. I'll pop a link to that video if you've not seen that one. Nicandry's another one of my girls. Corey is also another word for young girl or maiden, and the boy equivalent is the Kouros, for example, the Critios boy, the Anavasos Kouros. Yes, I am reusing examples because those are my 2 favourite boys, and I will get onto them in future videos at some point. But just reuse, recycle and all that, okay? Like Nicandry, she's in a similar frontal pose. She's got curly hair and she's got the archaic face and kind of resting, pleasant smile on her face, I guess. Phrasikleia's arms are also active. One of her hands holds out the skirt of her peplos and the other one is holding a lotus flower blossom to her chest. The lotus flower was a common Egyptian funerary symbol, which the Greeks have adopted, which is quite nice. Phrasikleia is also in incredible nick for her age, right? She is so well preserved, right? She's wow. She's incredibly elaborate and she has so much detail still preserved on her body, which on other statues, because of the nature of their depositions, it's a bit different. Most other statues are broken or they're faded or they're missing bits. They're just not nearly as well preserved. But she's clearly got a crown of flowers on her head. She's wearing a necklace, she's wearing bracelets, jewellery, as well as details on her sandals which are still visible. Not only is there obvious remnants of paint, there was like 11 different pigments of red on her body. Her hair is a dark brown, her skin was pigmented as well. There was even use of golden lead foil traces for some of the little intricate bits, which is astounding detail. Very, very elaborate and clearly a very, very rich lady, okay? Because of so much well-preserved detail, an actual reconstruction has been made of Phrasikleia. I'll show you that here. I'll show you them side by side, why don't I? There you go. Showing what she looked like in her full glory. Obviously, her body is pretty well preserved, but the actual colours upon her. She looks amazing. She looks absolutely amazing. I might put the big light on. Shall I put the big light on? Oh, that's much better. A wee bit. It'll do. Anyway, I'd like to tell you now about Phrasikleia's inscription upon the base of her statue. Once again, it's very well preserved and it's a very interesting inscription, actually. Let me read it out to you. I have it written down, obviously. Tomb or grave of Phrasikleia. Corey, maiden. I must be called evermore, the gods allotting me this name in place of marriage. This straight away tells us that Phrasikleia was a young girl who died before she was able to get married. On one of the sides of the base, it also says, Aristion of Paros made me. So we have the actual attribution to the artist who sculpted the statue. Little's actually known about Aristion of Paros, but I mean it adds up if she's made of Parian marble and he's from Paros. You know, those two facts corroborate each other. We only know of him through a few inscriptions on his surviving works, but Phrasikleia is the most intact and most legitimate? That's not the right word. Credible. Credible is a better word. Phrasikleia is the most credible of his artwork. So now we know who made her, and we know who real life living Phrasikleia was. Not statue version of Phrasikleia from the inscription. Strap in, boys, because the context of Phrasikleia is probably the heaviest we have for a statue, I would say. At least in my little quartet, this is a lot of information. There's a lot of thought behind who Phrasikleia was and what her context means. I've said already, Phrasikleia is extremely well preserved for her age, and that's because she was purposefully buried not long after she was first created. And we can assume after the actual Phrasikleia had not long died. She was buried and then obviously found again in the city of Marinus, which is near modern-day Merenda in Attica. This purposeful burial is possibly the result of socio-political strife going on at the time in the form of a feud between the two elite families, the Pisistratids and the Alcmaeonids, and possibly even to do with the return of the Pisistratus himself after one of his many exiles. We don't know. And some scholars have even gone as far to suggest that Phrasikleia was actually part of one of these ruling elite families, or at least closely linked to them somehow, whether she was an actual member or just someone that, like, their pal. I don't know. We don't know. That's the whole joy of this. We don't really know. The orator Isocrates stated that these two families had a habit of destroying each other's property and even desecrating each other's graves, because obviously they're the two ruling families. There's a lot of that going on, so they would destroy each other's stuff. So one line of thought is that Phrasikleia was a member of one of these families. Sorry, I didn't mean to punch the microphone. Some form of political strife broke out, maybe Pisistratus returned, or something else was going on, so her family decided to purposefully bury this marvellous statue that they have commissioned and paid for to commemorate the loss of this young woman in their family. Obviously before marriage in ancient Greece, she could have been really, really young, to be honest. But they've commissioned this big beautiful statue. They're trying to mourn the death of this member of their family, and they've immediately buried the statue to keep it safe and to stop it from being desecrated by the other family. She was most likely a member of the Alcmaeonid family rather than the Pisistratid family, and that's mainly due to the nature of her name. The name Phrasikleia derives from the Greek kleos, meaning fame, and such names deriving from fame are actually quite common within the Alcmaeonid family. For example, Megacles means great fame, Pericles meaning wide fame, and Cleisthenes meaning fame strong. Pretty cool, to be honest, and it makes sense if you consider modern family lineage. For the most part, we all have the same last name. It's kind of the same, I guess you could argue. And her visual wealth as well, the sheer detail on this statue also contributes to this idea, because to commission such a work of art, you've really got to be one of the elite ruling families to be able to afford it, especially out of Parian marble by Aristion and all that. And yeah, she is expensive and rich and probably part of the ruling elite. And she was redug up in 1972 by Efthymios Mastrokostas. And now she's finally at home in the National Archaeological Museum of Athens. Probably pretty close to Nicandry, actually. From the photos, it looks like they might be in the same room, but I've never been. I can't get a photo of them in the same room together. If one day I can, I might fangirl so hard that my brain explodes. But I guess we'll have to wait and see, besties. The inscription upon Phrasikleia's base clearly tells us that she was a young girl who died before marriage, but that's not all we know about her. There's a lot of heavy symbolism within this piece, whether it's something that modern scholars have projected onto her, or something that the original creators and commissioners actually wanted to portray throughout the statue. We can't connect those 2 points, right? It could well be modern historians enforcing these ideas on the past, but that's a whole other kettle of fish that happens all the time in archaeology. So we're leave that, not talk about that. But here's some of the symbolism that is present upon Phrasikleia. For starters, the lotus blossom that she's clutching to her chest is not bloomed. It was plucked before it could bloom, i.e. plucked too soon. She died too soon before she could be married, before she had a life, right? So there's already we got a little bit of symbolism going on there. In addition to that, Kori is also another name for the goddess Persephone. Here we go, strap in. This is the big one, right? For those unfamiliar with Persephone and Greek myth, let me give you a very, very quick fire round here, okay? Not going into detail, trying to just get on through it because there's a lot. Persephone is the goddess of the seasons and the daughter of Demeter and Zeus. One day she was out just kicking about and she was abducted by Hades to become his bride. Keep in mind that's her uncle, by the way, because Zeus gave him permission to abduct her to be his bride of the Underworld and rule as the Underworld's queen. Her dad, who is also her uncle, told her other uncle, "Oh, aye, abduct my daughter and your niece." It's all a bit much, right? That's by the by. So her mum, Demeter, was absolutely raging because obviously she adored her daughter, and she went searching for her high and low. Eventually they reached an agreement, 50-50 split. Half the year she's up in Olympus with her mum, having fun. That's when it's spring and summer. Everything's nice because Demeter and Persephone are both happy together. Everything's flourishing, crops are growing. It's all good fun. And then the other half of the year she spends in Hades with Hades. And Demeter's very sad. And Persephone's away in the darkness and the gloom. Away from her mum, not happy at all. Plants are dying, crops won't grow, it's freezing cold. Therefore, in death, Phrasikleia is fulfilling the role of Kori, maiden bride, in many other ways. Similar to Persephone Kori, who was a young girl, young maiden, since Phrasikleia was unmarried in life before she died, when she passes over into Hades, she becomes one of his brides, which was quite a common theme in the ancient world. If a girl died before she was married, she would be considered a new bride of Hades, which is why she's dressed so elaborately with all her crown on and all of her jewellery, because she's actually in her wedding dress to go and get married to him in death. And it's presumed that the deceased would also be dressed in the same kind of garb as the statue. She would finally get married in the afterlife, which is quite sad when you think about it. I'm like, oh, she passed away. Oh. Phrasikleia might also seem familiar because I have mentioned her in past videos all the time. I talk about her all the time, really. Now that I think about it, I talk about her a lot. And she's also in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. What? If you've seen the Eagle Bearer's Guide to Lucis, you'll know kind of what I'm talking about already. In Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Phrasikleia is actually used as the standard stock statue across the map for Persephone / Kori / whatever you want to call her. So she's all over the map, and when I first bumped into her, I was out of my mind. I was like, oh my god, I can't believe she's actually here in front of me in this game. This is absolutely glorious. And in the Eagle Bearer's Guide to Eleusis, within the Eleusinian Temple, which is a temple to Demeter, she's dotted about quite a lot because being Demeter's daughter, she's obviously going to be pictured there. But Phrasikleia was not at the temple. In real life, there is only one Phrasikleia statue, just the one. Technically two, if you count the reconstruction, but there's one, okay? In conclusione from that, Phrasikleia is pretty cool, if you ask me, but I might be a little bit biased. The fact that she's so well preserved can show us the sheer level of detail and symbolism that was applied to artworks, funerary sculptures and stuff within the past. She can also tell us a bit about social standards for women, which are also reflected within the art of the time. In the Greek world, girls would get married really, really young, like 14, I think. Maybe even before that sometimes. It was very, very young brides. Older men, kind of gross. That's another video for another time, if I ever decide to do it, because I think it's gross. But marriage was a very big deal in a woman's life in the ancient Greek world. And also being from this possible very elite standpoint, she actually tells us a bit about the socio-political goings-on at the time between the two ruling families, if indeed she is from one of these two ruling families. Because who else would have the money to pay for such an extravagant statue and then bury it? So the fact that she just exists is really, really cool. And if whatever family member back in the day decided not to bury her, we probably wouldn't know what we know about some of these things, or we wouldn't have such an in-depth understanding. She corroborates a lot of theories and ideas and such that are flitting about in the academic society and universe and whatever. She's also just very, very pretty, isn't she? I like a pretty statue, what can I say? And that'll be that for this week. Thanks for watching. I really hope you learned something, and if you didn't, watch it again. Pay attention this time. Mind and leave any questions, concerns, criticisms, comments, whatever in the comments below, and also any other topics you'd like me to cover. My bibliography is in the description box below, as well as I'll put some further reading stuff there as well if you'd like other bits and bobs. As always, a lot of my knowledge comes from actually learning at the university, so I try and find as many online sources as possible that I can give that aren't dodgy, but most of it is from books and university learning and stuff. And I list my books when I can, and if not, I'll find some sort of website that has clearly read the same books as me and has spat it out somewhere else. Watch some more archaeology videos on my channel if you want. I also do gaming. Oh, also, I live stream on Twitch at least 3 times a week over on twitch.tv/free_heart. Not necessarily archaeology related, but sometimes it is. And you can also pop in my Discord as well if you're feeling a bit too shy to speak up in the comments. I have a channel in there dedicated to YouTube ideas, archaeological discussion and all that good fun stuff. See you next week. Bye!